Okay. Um, which, I mean, some people will probably go, well, they were just making you immune to the disease. There's enough, even besides that, there's enough going on. I promise you, they're not making us stronger. They're trying to kill us, and they're lying to you. Okay, I'm not talking to the gang stalkers. I have to keep reminding myself of that. I will not talk to the gang stalkers. Moving on. Trying to remember. Oh yeah, the girl in the room. So I'm in the room with my other roommate, while the other roommate is in the living room having an interview with the two federal agent dudes. I'm assuming they were federal agents. They had a badge, whatever. So I'm sitting in there, and she's showing me her photo album. She shows me this picture of her with her boyfriend. I was like, wow, you look really different, because she was younger, and she just looked really, really good. She looked really beautiful, and I was like, wow. And so I remember being very struck by that photo of her and thinking how different she looked in that photo. So it really stuck in my mind. That photo really stuck in my mind. Well, I'll just tell you really quickly, years later, and I would say it was probably like, no, I know the exact year. It was 1998. Years later, I was homeless. Okay, that's where I was. In 1998, I was homeless. And, I hope that's not too much information. I don't want to, like, reveal really, really personal information. I just want to stick to, like, pertinent stuff. But anyway, years later, when I was homeless, I was living in a shelter. And I was sitting in the TV room, which I didn't do very often, but I just happened to be in there one day. And I actually had a job, too. I actually had a job at that time. But I won't get into all those circumstances of why I was there. But it had to do with violence against me, and I had to be in there for protection. But I did have a job. But anyway, I was sitting in the TV room, and by the way, that job that I had during that time was weird too. I was a microfiler at that time, and I did like microfiling. And I think I signed an agreement that said I would never talk about the files. So I'm not going to talk about the files, but it was weird. And I have reason to believe that there's a reason that me getting that job was not an accident, that was in fact a government job, and I just didn't even know that it was a government job. And I think they were doing experiments on us there. I'll get to that later, but it was weird. It was really weird. Really weird. My clock, I had a little clock, and it started spinning around, like the hands on the clock would start spinning around. And it was like this big warehouse that we worked in, and there was this guy that, I'm not kidding you, this guy, his appearance was changing. I pray that this information gets out, because they did this to me without my consent. They did these things without my consent. And I fear they plan to do it to my son. They experimented on his father. I know that they experimented on me. Let me just finish what I'm saying. Years later, I'm sitting in the homeless shelter, and I'm watching TV. And all of a sudden, this show comes on TV, and it was like Unsolved Mysteries, I think it was. Or it was something like Unsolved Mysteries. And all of a sudden I see this picture of this girl that was my roommate years before. And I saw the exact photo that she had shown me in her room that day. The exact photo that I said what really caught my attention. I was like, oh, wow, she's so beautiful. She's a lot skinnier, and you know what I mean? I remembered that photo, that exact photo of her and her boyfriend. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this TV screen, and they're talking about a girl that was murdered. And they're showing pictures of her, and that exact photo was one of the pictures of her. And I'm not going to tell you who she is. I'm not going to tell you her name. I just don't feel comfortable doing that with anyone. Even people that I think are downright evil, I still do not feel comfortable naming names. Anyway, they wouldn't do the same for me, I guarantee it. But I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to tell you her name. I just don't feel right. But apparently she was murdered because there was an unsolved. It was a TV show about a girl that had been murdered, and they showed that photo of her. And I was just in shock. I mean, wondered if it was even real. Wondered if somebody was messing with my head. And then years later after that, I tracked down her. Somehow I tracked down her boyfriend and was going to try to find out what happened to her, like why she was murdered or whatever. I somehow found his address and I went and knocked on his door, but nobody answered. That's really weird, though. I look back and I'm like, how the heck did I track him down? But during that time, I was really trying to figure out what was going on. And then, oh my God, there were really weird things it had. That's another thing I forgot to tell you. I've had time anomalies. You wonder why I talk about time travel? Because I have had time anomalies myself. Specifically, I went to bed this one Saturday night and I woke up Saturday morning, but I'll get into that later. Like I said, this is going to be a long one, and I don't want to rush. I want to go as fast as I can, but at the same time, I need to cover everything, and I don't want to make myself all stressed out trying to say it perfectly or writing it down. I just don't have time. But this information has to get out. Okay. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So that girl that was my roommate, that was the friend of that other really weird, creepy, scary witch girl. I mean, she was evil. She was so mean. And I never did of course, I never did anything to her. I never did anything to anybody. I was always respectful even to homeless people. I was always nice. I would go out of my way to be nice to people. Anybody and everybody. And she was just evil. Anyway, her friend apparently was murdered. Because I was sitting in that TV room at the homeless shelter and saw her picture on that show. They were talking about how she had been murdered. So, I'm telling you, man. And she had had a lawsuit out against a teacher that had raped her. Bad stuff going on, you guys. It's really, really bad stuff going on in this world right now. That's the only reason why I'm putting my own personal life out here. Because I know there's going to be so much evil people that get a hold of this, but it's got to get out. You guys, and I'm going to pray that the right people download these videos. I know Jesus can do some wonders. And I know that this information needs to get out. The only reason I'm still alive today is I believe I am meant to do this. I'm meant to get on here and tell you guys my story. There's not enough time for me to write a book. There's not enough time for none of that. I don't even have the energy. I'm half dead. I feel like I'm half dead. I don't even know how I'm able to like live every day. I feel like my ability to function is just going away. Like I feel like I can't even function anymore. I mean, everywhere I go, these military people are there. I mean, I'm in a position where if I try to find a job, I can't. Nobody will hire me. I have tried so freaking hard. I can't even begin to tell you. They will not hire me. They will not allow me to be hired. I realize now that I am their prop. They consider me their property. The only time I'm ever going to get a job is if it's through them. I realize that now, but I didn't know that for the longest time. But anyway, but let me just get back to what I was saying. So I go back to my early 20s, and I'm working on getting into a band. And this girl, she was a singer, and she was a friend of my other singer friend. And I only hung out with her one time. And this is another girl that was murdered a couple years later. Incidentally, I'll just tell you, I found out that the one girl, my roommate, was murdered in 1998, and this other girl was murdered in 1997. I'll repeat that because that could be easily misunderstood. I found out that my roommate was murdered in 1998. I'm not sure what year she was murdered. And the other girl was murdered in 1997. So it's all kind of tied in. Anyway, I was trying to work as a musician. I was like trying to do this new thing where I was going to start doing like bands and stuff. So I was hanging out with this one guy who had a band, and he was doing all this stuff. So I was going, and I would like go on some of his jobs, his gigs with him, and then I would jam with the band at the end or whatever. Just jam, like just freestyle, not even anything that was rehearsed or anything. And I did that. That's what I was doing this one night when she happened to be there, because she was also a singer. And actually, I think she was the lead singer of the band at that time. I think. I could be wrong, though. She might have only been jamming with them, too. I don't really know. I really wasn't, like, a competitive person. I never have been. And she was really, really good singer. But I just was not a competitive person, is my point. I wasn't, like... You know what I mean? I've always been the kind of person that if somebody else wants something, I'm quick to just give it away. I'm very non-combative. I've always been very non-combative. However, in recent days, I'm getting to the point now where if these people mess with my son one more time, I'm not kidding you, I am capable of doing things that I've never done before, and that possibly might be the reason why they're attacking me, because they might be doing experiments to see how they could change a person from being really nice and non-combative into being violent. But I'm telling you, like, they've done things that are evil. Anyway, I'm getting tired of talking about this, but I have to keep going. I have to tell you this stuff. And this isn't even anything. This isn't even everything, by no means. But this girl, she ended up being murdered a couple years later. And I remember hanging out with her this one night. And she was talking about something that was happening to her. And at that time in my life, I was not aware of gang stalking. At that point in my life, this was before I realized that I was being gang stalked.